Our next writer is, why can't I find people today? Oh, there. Okay, Donna Wise Coombs is a recent transplant from the high desert of Central Oregon. Prior to Oregon, she lived in Colorado for 20 years, where she studied poetry at Lighthouse Writers in Denver. She's also a founding editor of Turkey Buzzard Press in Colorado. Her first poetry book, River Beneath the River, was published in 2007. She lives with her husband, Mac, in a house built in 1860 here in Batavia. They might be sharing their home with a red-headed dowager ghost who needs a poem written just for her. Donna, please.
Thank you. I'm going to be reading 9 poems, and if you want to applause, that would be great to clap, but at the end, because otherwise I'll get all rattled. When we told our friends in Oregon that we were moving here, they were all freaked out that we were moving to Illinois. You're moving to Illinois? And then when we got here, people said, why did you move here? So this is the poem I wrote about that. After you called from back home, asking about my safe arrival, I remembered something critical I forgot to tell you, and that is the air here has water heavy in it, and it falls as rain to rivers, brooks, cornfields, all fragrant, frogs a cacophony, spring green of trees leafing out is an old story really, been done before. Forgive my exuberance. You know where I came from, that place of western junipers, desert sage, cinder dust. Red cardinals don't cross the continental divide. Did I mention that? They are everywhere here. They must know something I will try to learn. An extravagance of saturated color, shouting a joyful, loud hello. We do miss Oregon, however. And the number one thing that we were really into there was looking for mushrooms in the Cascades. It's like an Easter egg hunt for grown-ups. Kids are good at it too. Kneeling at the altar. Find an old growth woodland with floor of duff underfoot, bouncy as a mattress. Moss-covered fallen trees tumbled, a game of pickup sticks for giants. Out of this decay emerge obscene shapes. Shaggy parasol, lion's mane, angel wings. Their pops of color bulge toward sun. Squat and finger a golden mushroom shape all the way down the length of it underground. Pull it gently up to lay heavy in your hand. Gills, vulva, ring, give clues. Spores and smell too. But don't stand up victorious. Stay low, keep looking. That ancient root web rarely gives just one fruiting body. There'll be more, so close you can taste them. Fly fishing with Steve. Years ago, when my fist first held a fly rod, I didn't know how to relax with it and stay loose. Wanted to rush the casting cycles, power my way in. Of course, back then, used to have a terrible hunger, terrible thirst. Pretty much lived to log and drink, one after the other. Made good money, had a nice house, and the wife worked up enough tenderness to have 2 kids. But then fishing began to pull me more than the beer. Reading the water was something I became good at. Looking for the shadow of fish more than the fish itself. Finding strikes in riffles and pockets and runs. Reading women is a whole nother story. Was stupid enough to think Sue was happy running the kids around. And besides, I could still make her laugh and never cheated on her. When she finally decided to leave, she didn't even leave for a better man. She just plain left. So that's how I learned. You know, when you fly cast into the wind, it blows the fly and line back at you, so you've got to make a tighter loop, tight as you can get anyway. Work the down and forward cast directly toward the water. Loft the line, float her down gentle, see what happens. So we had this neighbor in Colorado. She called me one afternoon and said, "So I was watching your house with binoculars when your babysitter was there yesterday, and she was a horrible babysitter, and she was on the phone all afternoon while your girls wandered all over the yard, and your dog did a better job of watching your daughters than the babysitter." So I had to write a poem about her. Molly surveys the neighborhood. "Well, now that Dot, she's always bragging about her trips, traipses over here to show me her Polaroids and her latest souvenir ashtray. Claims she's got over 300. Cancer's got her lungs now, what with all her Pall Malls, but that's a whole nother story. Yesterday, when I looked over at her house for like the millionth time, I saw the darndest thing. Looked like a seagull, begging, flying low and real close to her front porch. Damned if it wasn't a fake bird caught at the end of a fishing pole. She had that pole propped up, nailed to the railing, and that bird was just flapping and flapping in the wind. Pretty looking, I guess, until it started to piss me off. I wanted to sneak over and unhook it. That bird started to seem like my oldest boy, Fred. He's living out over the garage. Been there since high school, 8.5 years now. Pays rent, mows the lawn, keeps quiet enough, but still, it just ain't natural. Want to cut him loose, too. See if he can fly on his own, weather a few storms, catch his own damn fish." Oh, it's fun to write. Attorneys call divorce dissolution, which is interesting, and so we're dissolute. And I wrote this poem for my friend Patty, whose husband left her abruptly after Marvin leaves to garden elsewhere. We all start from the same place, pick our mode of transportation, Scotty dog, wheelbarrow, or a tiny metal car. We have to move anywhere but here. Roll the dice, embark. Our children are far ahead carrying their own baggage. They can't shoulder ours. We can surprise them, buy a railroad, ride on top, tell no one on earth we've left. At some point along the way, purchase an acreage or two. Ask no man's permission. Break that rule and we forfeit a turn. Look for our tribe. They are the ones that will bail us out of jail or offer free parking. The heart beating in their chest is our next community. Rounding a corner, 2 C notes wadded in our pocket, and it's boardwalk on a fine summer day. So I actually did become single after 24 years of marriage, and you find out how big a queen bed is then, and insomnia gets even bigger then, and so I kept a pile of books on my bed at night for when I woke up. I had Sudoku, the Bible, poetry, and one time I looked at the pile and it looked like a small, manageable man. So anyway, it really did. Pablo Neruda was one of my favorite poets at that time. He still is. He wrote 100 love sonnets for his second wife, Matilda, so it gave me kind of hope. And he wrote a series of odes to his suit, to laziness, to a chestnut on the ground. So this is Sleeping with Pablo. Before the daily press, morning shower, I bring coffee to bed, a queen minus her king, and reach for you, Pablo Neruda. Your dark sailing vessel roiling us back to night, those strange dreams of mermaids playing tug-of-war or a former love eating garlic to recover himself. You stitch these threads seamlessly into your odes, to a suit, to laziness, to a chestnut on the ground. This particular morning, there must be lovers getting what they need. Ancient wells slaking thirst, grainy soap operas retelling despair. Pablo and I are perfect. To the beat of the ocean, we wander harbors, ogle birds, the sea and sky our home. His eyes, shining consecrations, unburied, raising me to the crest of each white-capped wave. His great girth, a brightness, falling on me, as secret sound, sacred conversation, my shining boat, my dove, my iron sun. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with the I Ching, but it's a text dating back to 1000 BC in China. Instead of tarot cards or the local priest, the I Ching gives the seeker suggestions, hints to their questions by creating a hexagram based on a pattern when you throw 3 coins. The unique hexagram comes with an explanation from the ancient text. Here's mine. 3 coins tossed, question asked, a hexagram. The I Ching gives me a word for my troubles, increase. The oracle says I will be helped in crossing the great water by a wooden ship, gentle trade winds, arousing thunder. Arousal sounds good. Gentleness too. But I'm also told to constantly persevere, love the good, stay in harmony with high universal laws. These are not small tasks. Confucius would have me rest before going, compose my mind before speaking, make my relations firm before asking for anything. I have asked you, the one who relates to me firmly and who terrifies if new love might continue. I expect a rousing thunder, but there are merely these printed words on a white page. If in truth you have a kind heart, ask not. If kindness is recognized as your virtue, you have attained your purpose already. So this is a poem that was inspired by the biblical story of Martha and Mary. I don't know if you guys remember that, but Martha was slaving in the kitchen and Mary was out sitting at Jesus' feet. And like growing up, I always didn't know which one I should be, and they both had pros and cons, and it was confusing. So this one's called Jesus Stops By. I cannot stop thinking about him, sitting in my living room, thumbing through an old House Beautiful, waiting for me to bring him sun tea. He saw the glass jar on my porch. Today it's a crazy combo. English breakfast with pineapple ginger. Inspired, I thought, until he showed up. Now I'm not sure. I decide to feed him too. Quickly slice an heirloom tomato into wedges, fresh basil chopped coarsely, grind of sea salt, the whole offering glistening with oil from an olive. I bring him the tea, iced, yellow bowl of tomato brimming with summer. He starts to eat. Music plays in the background. An angel voice throws out lyrics hard as stones. Jesus asks what I've been up to. He deserves Sunday best, but there's not enough time to spit shine. I tell him my god-awful truth. Ancient light in the room makes tender what was tough, and somehow, miraculously, we go on easier from there. Last poem. This is from my husband, Mac. There's a happy ending after all. Paradise Valley. From the sleeping porch, we heard wild turkeys in the woods. Then nothing. Hours later, a far-off train in the valley, its whistle reaching our lonely centers. We had trudged a long way to arrive here, forgetting that a train or something like it can accelerate the trip, all that rhythmic motion in the dark, or sometimes no motion at all, as then. The sun was coming on in increments, wide awake and waiting, hands resting lightly on beloved skin, our voices quietly murmuring. Thank you.
And Donna Coombs, where are you? You didn't read Here's the Oldest Rule.
Oh, I didn't, yeah. Are you supposed to add? I don't have it with me.
I have it with me. We've never done this before, but would you please come up here? It's very short. It'll be worth it. Can you see?
Okay, sure.
All right. Wow.
This is the last poem in my book, River Beneath the River. As a rule, here's the oldest rule: stay amazed. For example, follow the line and plume of smoke from this weathered chimney. The house has weakened underneath it, but no matter. The smoke is gray, dreamlike, a velvet offering to twilight. Notice the red door of the house, painted on an afternoon years ago when possession was palpable, pure. It will always be so, hanging there with its practical message. And down the dirt road, trees are aching, bare-branched. They swoon into each other, into winter, answering that familiar question, why death? It being the final amazement. No doubt that moment too will stun us with its insistence on making every previous rule obsolete, throwing out with finality the playbook and the play.